Welcome back, you guys, to Running with Wolves. I am so excited. I have so much to talk to you guys about. I have so much to catch you up on. There has been a lot of changes in the last couple of months. And if you guys have followed me on social media, if you guys have seen any of my content in the last couple of months, you will know that I have made some pretty massive changes to not only my business, but my life. And I felt like what better way to basically reintroduce this like kind of new season and new era of the podcast than to catch you up on the things that were changing as far as my business, but then also some stuff that's just been going on in my personal life. I feel like I just have a lot that I have not shared with you guys. And so because of that, I'm really excited because we're going to kind of unpack all of that today. So I've got my cold brew situated with me. If you guys are just listening, maybe you can kind of hear it swishing around. I don't know. But I'm really excited to chat with you guys today. So buckle up, grab your caffeine, grab your coffee. I'm also trying not to get sick right now. I can feel it starting and I don't have time this month to get sick. So bear with me if I sound a little congested and nasally, but it's going to be good. So let's get into it. I feel like I want to kind of start with the business side of things, and then we can finish up by like yapping together about the personal side of things. So let's kind of talk about it a little bit. Like I said, if you guys have followed me on social media, which I'm assuming most of you do, that's probably how you found my podcast, but you guys have seen a little bit of the kind of like behind the scenes of what changes have been happening, and it's been a lot. So let me give you guys, I think we'll kind of back up. I'm going to give you guys some context behind the scenes of what's been going on in my business for the last couple of years, and then talk about the changes that I made because of the decisions that I came to within that business. So for the last almost 5 years now, I have scaled this business rapidly. You guys know my story. Started out divorced, 21 years old, really struggling financially, to, having built a multi-million-dollar business by the age of 25, right? So then I'm now 27, I'll be 28 this year. And it's so funny because I'm trying to tell this story from the business side of things, but I feel like business and personal, because we are human beings, oftentimes we're human beings who are trying to be business owners, oftentimes the two kind of collide. So bear with me, stick with me here with this story. I'm going to kind of weave back and forth a little bit, but it'll all make sense in the end. So over the last 2 years, I have really been feeling super unaligned with how I've been scaling my business. And when I say unaligned, I don't mean it in the super woo-woo way. I just mean I have not been excited about my business. And I understand that there are going to be days where you don't feel super excited to get up and run your business and it feels hard. I get that. But those are also temporary, very fleeting feelings for me. I've been in it long enough at this point to really know what is a fleeting feeling and what's I just really didn't do a good job taking care of myself this week. I'm just feeling really burnt out. And what is this is deeper than that. Why is this happening? So for the last 2 years, and I was having ongoing conversations with my business coach about this, because I basically was hey, what the heck is going on? This is how I'm feeling. I'm trying to decide if it's, again, just one of those moments where it's hey, you just kind of got to push through, or if it's one of those moments where you really need to pay attention to this feeling and recognize that if you continue scaling this way, it's not going to be good. You're going to end up burnt out, etc. Right? So about a year ago, almost 2 years ago, we made the decision that I basically, because I had massive goals, right? Every single year I was cool, I want to double our revenue. I want to double our revenue. I want to double our revenue. And in 2023, so almost 2 years ago now, in 2023, that was when we had our first multi-million-dollar cash year. And I remember that year I worked 14 to 18 hour days, I would say. Basically, when I wasn't sleeping, I was working. And at the end of that year, remember looking at my business coach and I was like, okay, I can't do that again. Like, I can't continue at this rate, basically. And nor do I want to. Like, I started my business because I wanted to work for myself. I wanted to make great money, have freedom and flexibility, and I understand it takes time to grow those things, but I'm also not out here trying to sell my company within the next 2 years. And so like, I'm okay with things taking a little bit of a longer period of time. So last year we switched things up to basically be, my motto was essentially at what cost, right? Because we'd kind of like hypothesized, is the reason why I'm feeling this way, quote unquote, unaligned, when really the way I was feeling was just burnt the fuck out. It was like, okay, is it just that I'm dealing with burnout, or is there, again, something bigger here? So let's try to eliminate the burnout and see what happens. So last year I brought on more team members. I delegated more things. And so last year I was pretty much exclusively responsible for filming our content. I had everyone doing the strategy for me, writing the content for me, everything. So all I had to do was basically like press record, hand it off to the team, good to go, right? I would have maybe one sales call a month because I had a closer. And then I also was responsible for taking care of my one-on-one consulting clients. And obviously that wasn't going to change. But then I had co-coaches basically for our Accelerator program. So I was working less than I ever had before. I think I was probably working 20 hours a week, maybe. I was still making good money. I wasn't taking home as much as I had in the past. However, I was like, that's really okay. Like, it's not a lot less. And so I'm like, if I basically can feel more aligned with my business, be less busy, I'll be okay, right? So did all of those changes, and my motto, and the motto I've learned throughout being a business owner, has essentially been, you need to make sure that when you make changes, you don't make any other changes for 6 months. Like, sit on it, essentially. See how it feels, work out all the kinks, let it actually work for you. And then if you like it, great, continue with it. If not, we'll change it up and do something different, right? So for the first 6 months, it was really focused on like delegating all of the tasks that I had and making sure that I was training our Accelerator co-coach as well, making sure clients were happy, things like that. Now, do not get me wrong. I don't have the expectation that there are never going to be client fires. But because I was no longer working with our Accelerator clients like closely, right? I really wasn't doing a lot of one-on-one support. I was just supporting within the group side of the container. I didn't get any of those really exciting moments with our clients when they would have that light bulb moment after we'd been talking through something, to basically be like, oh my gosh, that was it. That was the click that I needed. And then like seeing all of these really incredible results because of the support we were giving, I wasn't getting that version of things, right? All I was getting was if there was a client that was unhappy, which it was pretty minimal, but obviously during any transitional phase, you can do your best, but there still may be moments where you have, difficulties, right? So it felt like the only time I ever spoke to our Accelerator clients was if somebody had an issue. And yes, obviously, I was talking to them during group calls, but that's like 1 hour a couple times a week, basically. So it wasn't a lot. So I felt really disconnected from our clients. And then on top of that, because I wasn't doing really any of the sales conversations, any of the content, anything like that, I also felt really disconnected from our audience. And so it got to this place where I, in trying to not burn myself out, almost like isolated myself. It's so funny because it's like a prison of my own making, right? But I basically isolated myself. So I started to feel worse than I had before. And the realization that I had and that I came to was that for me, what lights me up, what gets me to be like, I want to get out of bed this morning. I'm so excited to work. I'm so excited to support my clients. is that impact and is that community and those like relationships, right? So for me, being able to explain to somebody why they need to do something a certain way, changes they need to make to their strategy, and supporting them through that and getting it to click in their brains, and not only for it to click, but them to see really incredible results after that because of that, was what I was really, really missing. And on top of that, I've realized I'm such a relationship person, right? And it doesn't need to be romantic. Like in order to feel energetic, I need to have strong relationships with people. And so then to be showing up on social media when I didn't feel connected to my audience, I wasn't even having conversations with them every single day, almost felt performative in a way. I'm like, okay, so I'm not actually here to have a relationship with people. I'm just here to show up to make money. Like that doesn't feel good to me. And so then I started to feel like I was almost like losing my edge in a way. I was less creative than I'd ever been before. I was less energetic than I'd ever been before. I was less inspired. I was less excited about my business than I'd ever been before. Like I am someone who I love being a business owner. Like I genuinely do. It's something that I will never get tired of talking about. But that was the first moment where I was like, do I go get a job? Like I'm not happy. This isn't what I want. I'm making less money than I ever have before. And I feel like the work that I am doing is not what I want to be doing. And anyone who's ever had a job, had a client, been in an industry that you're not passionate about, even if it's not in the same way that I'm talking about, you know the feeling of being like, this can't be my life. This can't be my whole, like the rest of my life, right? So then I'm like, holy shit, okay, so like I don't want to do this. Do I like prep the business to sell it basically and just do something else, right? Like I start catastrophizing, I start spiraling. I'm like, oh my God, I just don't understand what to do. So of course, and I've talked about before, the importance of having someone in your corner who knows you, who knows your goals, who knows your dreams, who like understands what you want and where you are now, and can kind of be, I always like to call them like your bumper lanes essentially, to get you there, right? And be like, nope, don't do that, come over here. Nope, do that, come over here, right? And so you guys have heard me talk about the importance of that. So the first two people, no joke, I called in the big hitters that I brought in, talked to my therapist and talked to my business coach. I genuinely feel like they are my religion. It's like some people immediately pray. I call my business coach and my therapist, and that's literally it. So called them in, had some conversations around this, and I'll give you some context as to why I talked to my therapist about this, because in the last year, have been in a very new phase of life. So you guys know kind of my story of being in a marriage when I was very, very young, was raised very religious. And the entirety of that religion was you get married young, you grow together, you have kids, and that's just what you do, right? So got married very young, got cheated on, unfortunately, very quickly into that relationship, that marriage. Marriage ended, right? So then I get into a new relationship, and for the last year have been out of that relationship, thank goodness. But, and this is something I've kind of shared this a little bit on social media, but I haven't gone super in depth around it. You know, I talk a lot about my first marriage, and that marriage was, and I promise there's a point to this, it'll loop back around to what I was talking to my therapist and my business coach about, and honestly was a big part of this like transition for me. So that marriage, you know, while cheating is never acceptable, the hard part is like we were babies, like 21, 22, right? And so it's like, yes, while it sucks, that didn't really traumatize me that much because I got out of it very quickly. We were in probably for 6 months, a huge like conflict phase in our relationship. But other than that, it wasn't a lot, right? In this new relationship that I was in, it was probably the most, and when I say this, I mean it, probably the most like mentally and emotionally abusive relationship I've ever been in. And I'm still in the process of unpacking that right now. and unpacking like really truly how bad it was, because even coming out of it when we broke up, I was like, I mean, like they were a great person to me. They loved me so well, all this different stuff. And then to, with my therapist, go back through chronologically the entirety of the relationship, process all of the events, all of the things that happened, all the things that were said to me. And I don't need to go into it, but the realization that it was like, okay, so that's why I was constantly in fight or flight. That's why I constantly had mental health issues. That's why I was so freaking anxious all the time. That's why like I had really, really dark thoughts at times, right? Because of how I was being treated in that relationship. So I came out of this relationship, and once, I don't know if any of you guys, and I'm assuming because I talk to so many women who have been through divorces or relationships like this, but when you come out of a situation like that and you're like regulating almost, you're basically like in a brain fog a little bit when you come out of a situation like that, because you've literally been through something so incredibly traumatizing. So I didn't have any massive realizations very quickly after we broke up. And like I said, it's obviously been like almost a year at this point. But so I was kind of in a bit of a brain fog. So I just kind of kept trucking along. And then as time went on, and as I processed, and as I started to become myself again, and I started to not be in fight or flight, I moved to a completely different city. I'm in like the most peaceful phase of my life. I'm good on my own. I have this like realization that all the chaos that's going on with work, I'm like, I don't want that. I don't, because I was in chaos, and now I can't hang. It's so funny because I feel like I always joke, and it's just because I use humor as a coping mechanism, and I'm sure many of us do too. But I always joke, I'm like, damn, my capacity for chaos in that relationship and just in my life across the board was so much higher because I just dealt with it every day. That was just my day to day. And now that that's not my day to day, I literally can't hang. If there's drama, if there is chaos, if there's anything, I'm like, I can't handle it. I have become, and I'm learning to not define that as weak, and more so just define that as being somebody who likes to protect their peace. But it was so interesting to me because through a lot of conversations with my therapist, had this realization that I had almost created something with work that was all consuming with my business, so I could escape that relationship, that fight or flight. And so now that I don't have to escape, now that I don't have to run, now that I'm not in fight or flight anymore, I don't enjoy what I created. And so then, of course, it spirals into this whole like existential crisis of, well, who the hell am I? Like, I've based my entire identity around my business. And it was really interesting to unpack all of that. And we've had a lot of really cool conversations that anyone who's ever been to therapy, especially if you're in like a toxic relationship, you spend 95% of your time talking about the other person in those sessions. Now that I don't have to talk about that other person, I mean, obviously still processing some stuff, but I'm like, wow, I've discovered so much about myself. We've had so many interesting conversations, it's pretty funny. Anyways, so long story short, I go to my business coach and I'm like, I've had this realization. I think, and I will never forget the message I sent her. I was like, I'm pretty sure I'm ready to burn it to the ground. Pretty positive, honestly. And this is not like I need you to talk me off the ledge conversation. Like, I'm just joking. I'm like, I'm almost positive. Like, I need some help here because I can't hang with not feeling inspired, not being connected to my clients, not being connected to my audience, not having these relationships, feeling isolated. I can't do that. This is not the business that I started. I don't want a business that I don't love. I don't want to just build something for a few years and then sell it to make money. I don't. I genuinely want to be a business owner for my life as my career, and I love it. And maybe, eventually if I have kids, I will change my mind. Maybe I will want to sell it. Cool. I can cross that bridge when I come to it. But right now I want to make some changes because I don't love how this is feeling. So we pretty much immediately got onto a call, and within 30 minutes had basically mapped out some massive changes within my business. And through a lot of the reflections that I did, I'd come to identify kind of 3 key areas that things needed to shift. Obviously, content was one of them, right? So I was, like I said, feeling super disconnected from my audience, feeling super disconnected from the content. And if there's one thing you guys should know about me, it's that I actually genuinely love creating content. There are some people who are like, oh my gosh, it's such a chore. I actually love it, like genuinely love it. I think it's so fascinating how you can combine creativity and data and like manipulate specific words and things like that, or come up with different examples that cause things to click or cause things to move or cause people to buy. I just think that that's such a fascinating skill set. So I really genuinely love creating content. So I was like, I want to get back into my content. And I know that that sounds counterintuitive as a very busy business owner who owns a multi-million-dollar business, but like, I want to get back into that. So content was one of them. Community was another, because like I said, relationships are so incredibly important to me that I knew I wanted to feel reconnected to my community. And that came down to my clients, but that also came down to my audience. And so we have some stuff coming later this year that I'm really excited about. I can't say anything about it yet. I know I'm always telling you guys that, but I can't say anything about it yet. But the sole goal is going to be community and is going to be impact. And then the last C was coaching. So with coaching, like I said, I genuinely missed those light bulb moments. I missed having those conversations with my clients. I missed getting my hands on their data. And yes, I was doing that with my consulting clients, but my consulting clients are at such a different level. It's not those light bulb moments. It's like, hey, I need help refining this, or hey, where are my blind spots on this, or hey, blah, blah, blah. I'm not teaching. I'm not really coaching. I'm consulting, which is, hey, if this is where you are and this is where you want to go, here's your gaps. Do you need help implementing this? Blah, blah, blah. There's not, I would say, as much like teaching. Now, those relationships are incredibly fulfilling. And honestly, some of my longest standing clients are my consulting clients. I have 2 clients who've been with me for like almost 3 years at this point. I have another client who's been with me for a year who just signed on for another 6 months. So like, these are long standing relationships that I've had, and I absolutely adore each and every one of them. But I missed teaching. I missed coaching. I almost became, when I was like first out of high school, I was like, what am I going to do? I thought I wanted to be an English teacher. And so I love teaching. So like I said, we basically made some pretty significant changes. So I pretty much slashed my team by half. So we had 2 Accelerator co-coaches, my assistant, our social media manager. We basically ended our working relationship with them. And that was a really, really hard decision for me to make. Honestly, my team was the hardest because I genuinely loved my team. Still do to this day. And we all still follow each other and chat and things like that. But I knew that it was the right decision ultimately. But the thing that was really hard for me was like, I'm responsible for their livelihood and they're not doing a bad job. That's the thing. It's so much easier to let somebody go if they're not doing a good job. But these people were doing just a really incredible job. But unfortunately, I needed to make some changes. And I made this realization, or I had this realization. I was talking to my therapist about it. And honestly, it made me really emotional. I like spent probably 10 minutes just crying in my therapist's office about it. And she basically was like, can you continue to put pressure and stress on yourself and scale a business when the model itself benefits everybody but you? And I was like, damn, like, no. And she goes, you started this business for you. So you have to do what works for you. And it made a lot of sense. And obviously I know that, but doing that is much easier than just saying it. So I ended up ending my working relationship with those team members. So now we have 2 full-time team members. And then we have our operations agency that we work with. And then it's literally just me. So I'm back to writing all of my own content, my emails, my podcast scripts, everything. I'm back to supporting all of my clients. And I'm not going to lie to you, some weeks are busy obviously, but my weeks before were busy, but they were busy with things I didn't love. And so now to be busy with things that I genuinely do love has just been such a welcomed change. Like the first week that I did one-on-one calls with my Accelerator clients and my consulting clients, it was 3 full days of calls. But the whole time I was like giddy. I was so excited. I was like, I love this. I'm back in it. I'm back having these conversations. And if anything ever changes again, like again, if I have kids one day and I can't be busy all the time with work, or like I can't work full time or I don't want to, okay, great, no problem. I can make adjustments then. But right now, this is so much more fulfilling to me. So that was really exciting. So we changed my signature offer, which is my Accelerator program, to basically have no co-coaches. You just work with me one-on-one and in a group capacity. And myself and our clients have really been loving it. Now, don't get me wrong. It was actually so interesting. I got such incredible feedback about our co-coaches when I told all of our clients. They were like, oh, like, obviously I'm really excited to work with you, but I loved our co-coaches. So that's just a testament to the fact that we didn't do this because we weren't seeing good results. We were seeing great results, which is so interesting to me because I'm like, we were killing the game. And it's just nice to know that, like, and I had this conversation with my therapist, if anything ever happened and I didn't want to do it this way, I've scaled a business model with team members, co-coaches, and agency before. I could do it again so easily. And that freedom and that autonomy gives me so much confidence to just be like, nope, I'm doing it the way I want to do it, kind of thing. So we made complete changes to my team, to my offers. And then we're really changing up, I would say, like the podcast to incorporate some more personal mindset stuff, to really, I would say, look at being like a business owner as a whole. And we're also going to be talking about some more high level stuff. I felt like with the podcast before, I was educating around like all the same stuff I would talk about on TikTok, which I didn't really love. I was like, this is what I talk about on TikTok all day. I want a place where I can explore like deeper, more meaningful conversations that are happening behind closed doors. You know, what's really interesting is that, and I was having this conversation with somebody the other day. In fact, I think it was our mindset coach for our Accelerator program. Shout out Topsy. She's incredible. But what was really interesting was we were talking about how there are a lot of conversations that are had behind closed doors as business owners. And the only way you can access those conversations is by hiring a business coach, being in a mastermind, any of those things. And so then you're left wanting and trying to figure it out on your own. And so what I will say is that, you know, you guys will see a lot of the topics that I'm going to be talking about are going to be a little deeper, are going to be, you know, a little more high level, I would say, as far as, you know, problems that business owners who are scaling are experiencing and not just starting out. And I'm really, really excited about it. And then last but not least, like I said, the community aspect, I can't say anything yet. I know you guys hate it when I tease. It's a love-hate relationship, my teasing in my marketing. But that's happening at the end of this year, early next year, and I'm so excited about it. So that's kind of the update on the business side of things. Now, let's dig into kind of the tea, if you will, on my personal life, because this isn't ever really stuff that I share like on the podcast. I think the most I share personal stuff would be on my Instagram stories. And obviously some of you guys don't catch that all the time because they only last for 24 hours. So, most of you guys know that I moved about 6-7 months ago. It was in September. So basically when I went through my breakup, we were living together at the time and kicked him out, as one does. And then I basically was like, you know what? I'm just going to try to like ride out my lease, essentially. My lease would not have been up until January of this year. So January of 2025 is when my lease would have been up. So we were not even living together for that long. So unfortunately, I have had to deal with a lot of crap from my ex. He would like show up to the house unannounced. Still to this day is sending me incredibly toxic emails, and every time I block the addresses, he just makes new ones, which is crazy. Anyways, it's been really fun, obviously, as you can tell. So I made the decision to move to an address that he didn't know, and I'm really glad that I moved, obviously. When I moved up here to where I live now, and I'm obviously not going to disclose it just for personal privacy and safety issues and reasons. But when I moved here, I was like, I would love to stay in this place, honestly, until I can buy. But so I moved in here in September. In October, I found termites, which was really fun. So had my landlord basically send out people, and they were like, yeah, you need to tent in October. She was like, well, and because the place that I rent is a multi-unit. So without giving too much information, I live in a really nice area, but it's a beach town and all of the houses are very close together. So like, unless you want to pay $20K a month in rent, you're not going to get an actual house. You're going to get like a condo or a townhome, which is totally fine. I'm like 5-minute walk to the beach. So like, I'm not complaining, right? So because it's a multi-unit building, there's only 2 of us, but it's a multi-unit building nonetheless. You have to get consent from the other neighbor to basically tent the house. And you guys, when I tell you, my neighbor up front, she's not going to hear this. So I'm just going to spill the tea, and I will still be kind and take the high road when I do. But basically, long story short, had some issues with her when I first moved in, and my landlord was like, kind of just her MO, just try and keep the peace and it'll be okay. I'm like, all right, whatever. So she's refusing to have the property tented. So it's now March when I'm recording this. Actually, never mind. It's April 1st. Happy April Fool's Day. It's April when I am now filming this. I've had termites since October, and they've tried to have people come to quote unquote treat the house for termites, which I didn't know you could do. And obviously you can't because they're still an issue. But it's not working. They've had more people come and say that we need to tent because they always want like a different opinion or whatever. And the opinion is the same every single time. I don't want to live with bugs. So she's letting me break my lease. So I found a new place. I'm very excited. Also, I will say, with 2 dogs, anyone who has 2 dogs, even though my second dog is very, very small, having a place where you can allow them to just run around at your house is really nice. Like having a backyard is just so wonderful and such a luxury. So the place that I found has more of a backyard, which I'm really excited about, because this house specifically, because it's closer to the beach, obviously doesn't have a yard. It has basically like a big deck up on top. So they've kind of been using that basically like as their yard. They can lay in the sun, but they can't really run around and play. And then the place that I also found is right across the street from a park. And funnily enough, is also 5 minutes walking distance to my new boyfriend, which is also part of the tea that I wanted to spill with you guys. So basically, and it's so funny because like I have never ever talked about my love life ever in my content. I've like teased here or there, but I've just never really talked about it until this point because I don't even know where to start. When I tell you this man, like I just, oh my God, just love him so much. Just want to like gush over him. And I won't be gross, don't worry. But what's so funny is that when I moved, I was like, I want to be single for a year. I do not want to get into a relationship because I don't feel like I've healed enough at this point. Like I don't want to bring this into another relationship, basically. And so my therapist and I were talking, and she was like, at least, she goes, my fear, because of how my relationship ended, because I'm not going to speak about that, but it was bad. Like, more cheating, there was more infidelity, there was just so much that happened. So with how that ended, my therapist was like, I don't want you to close yourself off to relationships, right? So she goes, why don't you just like date to meet people and just like have fun, basically? And I was like, sick, I can do that, right? So anyone who knows me knows that I have typically, aside from my ex-husband, any other person I've ever dated has been significantly older than me. And it's truly because I don't feel like I have ever been able to relate to people my age. I'm a business owner, well, relatively successful. I've lived a lot of life in a very short period of time. There were so many reasons I was telling myself, but she encouraged me, my therapist. Shout out Robin. I'm really referencing her a lot in this episode, so sorry, you guys. She really pushed me and was like, you're just having fun. So like, date different people, like try different people out, basically. See what you like, see what you don't like. You know, she's like, you haven't really given men your age a try since you were a baby. So try going out with people. So good old Hinge, honestly, matched with my current boyfriend. He's only a year older than me, but like right off the bat made me laugh. And if you know me, you know I cannot handle staying away from anyone who makes me laugh. So we ended up going on a first date and literally immediately clicked. But in the back of my head the whole time, I'm like, this guy's super fun, but also like, it's never going to work. He's so young. Like, no. So your girl might have ghosted for a week, and I'm not proud of it, but it was also when I was moving. So this was in September. I did ghost him for a week, and he was very persistent. He followed up with me 3 times. He's in sales. If any of you guys know, I love a follow-up. I love persistence. Because for me, being a business owner and also kind of being in sales, I'm like, respect, I get it. So anyways, the rest is history. But what I will say is that I feel like because I am in such a, like just such a peaceful phase of life, I've always been someone who's like, what's next? In business, in life, and everything. I'm like, when am I going to get, when am I going to meet my partner? When am I going to have kids? When am I going to do all this different stuff? Like, when am I going to hit my next goal within, business? There has been such healing in having somebody who, number one, makes you feel so secure and so at peace that I'm like getting goosebumps. This is so corny, but I don't care. That you don't feel like you have to jump to the next phase of life. You don't feel like you have to constantly rush and be like, okay, what next? Like you can just sit and enjoy and like just be in their presence. And so that's really kind of just what I've been doing. So your girl is down bad is what I'm trying to say. So yeah, we started dating in September. It's April now, like still together, still kicking. I have such an incredible group of friends now up here that I met through him and also on my own. But this is what I wanted in life. Like I wanted that community, those relationships. Like I said, I'm such a relationship girl, platonic and romantic. So it's been really wonderful to finally have things click where I'm like, this is it. I'm good. Like I'm so content, so happy. Not even just content. Content, I feel like has like a negative connotation, but I'm just so at peace with life. So I'm just so excited for how we're living life right now, what's happening as far as the business. And it also, I will say, going from dating somebody who is ambitious, but in a different sense, like, I don't want to give too much context into like my ex, but he was in a field and in an industry that was a little more blue collar. So while he was incredibly, I think that he was a hard worker, the ambition level was different, even though I was younger, right? And so to now be in a relationship with somebody who has the same dreams that I do and has the same drive and appreciates my work ethic and doesn't speak ill of it. Like if I have to work late, it's like, no problem. Like you just let me know when you're done, or if he has to work late or any of those things, like we just get it. and celebrates your wins. Like, I was actually thinking about this the other day, and this is the last thing I'll say about it, but you all know that I love Taylor Swift. I was watching her documentary a while ago, the Miss Americana documentary, and she was like, it's the part where she's talking about winning Entertainer of the Year multiple years in a row or whatever. And she was like, oh my God, that's all you wanted. Like, but now that you've reached the mountaintop, like, you look around and you have no one with you. And you're like, okay, well, like, what do I do? And it's like, shouldn't I have somebody to share this with? That's how I felt in my past relationships, because I didn't feel like I had somebody who was like my biggest cheerleader. And now it's like, I sign a huge client that I've been really working hard for, and it's like, oh my God, we're celebrating. Like, I'm so proud of you, and vice versa. Like, the same goes for him. You know, it's like when you are on the same page as your partner and you are hustling together and you have common dreams and like futures that you're building, it is so refreshing and so cool to also admire your partner because they're so good at what they do, and they admire you because you're so good at what you do. It's just a really cool place to be in, and I'm really, really excited about it. So I'll stop gushing now, but that was my update there. And then the last thing, which is so small and silly, but I wanted to mention it because I've been getting so many freaking questions around it on TikTok, is people have been asking me if I changed my skincare routine. And this is not like I got so many questions about my skincare routine and I wanted to tell you guys about it, when really I got one question. No, I get this every day. They're like, your skin is glowing. What's going on? Blah, blah, blah. I started, you guys, like, literally magical. I keep screaming this shit from the rooftops. I started skin cycling. If you have ever heard of it, you know what it does. If you've never heard of it, look it up. Long story short, it's a term coined by a dermatologist, and it's a 4-day like skincare cycle routine, basically. So like the first night you do a chemical exfoliant, the second night you do retinol, and then the last 2 nights you do like a recovery night where you do like really heavy like hydration, all this stuff. When I tell you, you can't really tell right now because I'm about to start my period and I have like a zit on the end of my nose, which is insane. But nonetheless, I have never had this good of skin in my life, and your girl is loving it. So if anyone has been having any skin issues, or you want your skin to be like brighter or more luminous or just anything, please look up skin cycling. Just do it. Just trust me. It's a 10 out of 10. So anyways, that I think concludes kind of our welcome back episode. I know I threw a lot at you guys, but if you have any questions, let me know. I'm really, really excited about this new version of the Running with Wolves podcast, all the things we're going to be talking about. I'm batching a bunch of episodes for you guys today, and I'm really, really excited about it. So I can't wait to hear your feedback. If you guys have anything, because obviously like I love listening to what you guys want to hear more of. So if you guys have any feedback, if you like me talking about my personal updates, if you like certain topics that we talk about, please reach out to me on Instagram and tell me like what your favorite part was, or like what your takeaway was or anything, because that stuff gets me going and makes me feel like I'm doing this like for a reason and for a purpose, basically. And my whole goal with this podcast is to just give back to you guys and make sure that like you have as much information and support as you can around your marketing and your sales, and also just motivate you and inspire you to keep going when the going gets rough, because that's just how it is being a business owner sometimes. So anyways, let me know what questions you guys have, what you want to hear more of. If you have questions about like the new version of the Accelerator and working one-on-one just with me, you guys are welcome to reach out to me on Instagram as well. I will give you guys a heads up, and this is not like a pitch thing or like a pressure thing, just as a heads up though, because I'm only working like just me, no co-coaches, one-on-one and group. We are capping the program at a certain amount of people. And right now, I believe we only have about 7 spots left. They have been going pretty quickly. So as soon as this episode comes out, if you guys want to consider working with me within the Accelerator, or if it's something you've been thinking about and you have questions around, I would encourage you guys to reach out to me sooner than later, just because it is something where there is genuinely limited capacity. I'm not someone who would say that if there wasn't. So anyways, I hope you guys have an amazing rest of your day. Thank you for listening to this, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye, guys.